Hi, my name is Hadley Marshall, and this is Nosferatu and Gender Norms, Women's Roles and Treatments Across Adaptation. So for my outline, I will first go over an overview of each film, provide some historical context, state the gender norms that each film portrays, and provide evidence supporting my claims, give a conclusion, and lastly state my next steps. Originally a German film, Nosferatu is a gothic horror film about a newlywed couple, Hutter and Ellen, and their confrontation with the vampire Count Orlok. I will get into the specific storylines of each film later in the presentation. Nosferatu has been remade multiple times, but the 1922, 1979, and 2024 adaptations are the most popular, and each adaptation reflects the gender norms of its time, which begs the question, how do the 1922, 1979, and 2024 adaptations of Nosferatu reflect evolving gender norms through the portrayal of women's roles and their treatment? It is important to study this as Nosferatu acts as a primary source that helps us gauge the evolving societal attitudes towards women through time. Additionally, given Nosferatu is a film, it can offer different insights and perspectives than other mediums of information from its corresponding time periods. In the first adaptation, Thomas and his wife Ellen lived in Wisborg, Germany, and Thomas travels to Transylvania to sell Count Orlok, a vampire, a house, while Ellen stays back in their hometown and experiences terrifying night terrors. Ellen is left with Hutter's friend Hardin and his sister. Count Orlok ultimately brings a plague to the town of Wisborg and puts Ellen under a sexual trance that draws her in. Because of this trance, Ellen sacrifices herself, ultimately lifting the plague and killing Count Orlok. The second adaptation is the exact same, but in this one, the main characters are named Lucy and Jonathan, and the vampire's name is Count Dracula. Lucy is left with her friends Mina and Schrader. In this one, Lucy tries to tell people what is going on, but no one listens. Additionally, in this one, Lucy tries to strategically defeat Count Dracula, but after Mina's death, she realizes she must sacrifice herself to defeat him, and the movie concludes with her doing so. The last adaptation of Nosferatu is similar to the previous one. However, in this one, Ellen and Count Orlok were previously lovers, and Ellen is cursed by him. Additionally, the people watching Ellen are her friends Anna and Andrew's husband, Frederick. In this version, Anna is treated like a mental patient following her night terrors, and it introduces a character named Professor von Franz, who is a scientist that is acquainted with the supernatural. Count Orlok gives Ellen 3 nights to give herself to him, or he threatens to kill her husband. After speaking to von Franz, Ellen realizes that she is the townsman's only salvation, and sacrificing herself to Count Orlok is the only way out. It is important to take into account the political background of each film, so we have evidence to support these are accurate depictions of gender norms of their respective time periods. For example, some political context that was going on during the filming of the 1979 version of Nosferatu was the second wave feminist movement. This lasted from the 60s through the 70s and consisted of the rise of organizations such as the National Organization for Women, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, women entering political campaigns, and Title IX being passed as a part of the Higher Education Act. All of these things collectively gave women increased access to education, jobs, and allowed them to politically strive. Each film portrays many of the same gender norms, but their focuses are different. The first film mainly portrays the gender norm that women are over-sexualized, over-emotional, and dependent people. This is evident through 3 scenes. So firstly, Ellen being over-sexualized is evident in the scene before sacrificing herself to Count Orlok. In this scene, she is evidently sexualized. As she tilts her head back, desire fills her eyes, and she places her hand on her chest. Next, in every scene of Ellen, she is dramatically displaying some emotion. For example, when Hutter returns from his voyage, she is so overwhelmed with emotions that she faints. And this is scene here. And this is just further evidence that she fainted. In this scene, she's evidently very over-emotional because this reaction seems to be over the top given the situation. Lastly, Ellen is displayed as dependent on other people, most evidently in the fact that when Thomas left, he made his friend Hardin take care of her. This portrays dependency because the film makes it seem like she's reliant on external people rather than being able to take care of herself. The second adaptation displays the gender norm that women are not credible. This is evident in this scene.
My child, these are only the products of your imagination.
You have read Jonathan's diary. You see what has happened to him. It's getting worse here every day.
This portrays women as not credible based on how they are treated because despite presenting Jonathan's journal as evidence, she is dismissed and treated like an untrustworthy source of information by a character named Von Hesling. Given she is evidence, this is likely due to her gender. This film focuses on redefining this narrative by demonstrating new gender norms where women can actually be strategic and can be heroes as well. This is demonstrated when Ellen discovers that Count Dracula must sleep in the soil he was buried in, and she strategically places vampire-repelling cloth in his casket. Given Ellen is the female protagonist of this movie, this demonstrates that women can actually be strategic, contrary to previous norms. She is displayed as a hero because once her friend Mina dies, she says, "I now know what I must do," and then sacrifices herself to stop the wrath of Count Dracula. Evidently, she saw that people were dying, and that is what inspired her sacrifice. This portrays that women can be heroes too. The final adaptation of Nosferatu incorporates these norms but focuses on portraying the societal norms that women are quote-unquote crazy, mentally ill, and dramatic based on how Ellen was treated. For example, Ellen being treated like a mental patient is seen when Ellen is given her ether, a drug that puts people to sleep, just because she sleepwalked. This is an extreme reaction that would be warranted towards someone who is extremely mentally out of control, not to a normal circumstance such as this one. She was additionally treated like she was crazy because after other mental episodes, she was tied to a bed, demonstrating that she was seen as crazy when in reality she was just validly reacting to a curse. Frederick even had evidence of this curse as Professor von Franz exposed it in a trance, but he still dismissed it and treated her as if she was crazy. Lastly, Ellen was worried something bad had happened to Hutter, and Frederick responds with, "I am most sensitive to your ardent nature and shan't reprove you further in this error of judgment." Here, Frederick dismisses her concerns as dramatic and implies that he will not keep correcting her in her inaccurate perception of reality, reflecting a societal norm that women are often dismissed on the account of being overdramatic. In conclusion, the three films differ depending on what gender norms they emphasize, and these norms range from portraying that women are seen as either overly sexualized, strategic, or crazy. This difference reflects the evolving gender norms through time. It is important to consider the historical events that occurred during the time of each adaptation, so we have evidence that these films accurately reflect the gender norms of their time period. An example of this could be comparing the second wave feminist movement and what it was composed of with the portrayed gender norms in the 1979 version of Nosferatu. In the future, I'm hoping to look into specifically how the 1979 version of Nosferatu accurately reflects this time period through using events and themes of the second wave feminist movement as support. I plan to then find feminist literature reflecting the time periods of the 1922 and 2024 versions of Nosferatu and do the same thing that I did for the 1979 version for these adaptations. Once I have more support that each film's portrayed gender norms are accurate, I will then compare them to each other to show how they have evolved over time. Here are my references.